The target idioms for this section are a close shave, call it a day, get out of hand, and under the weather. These are the target idioms for set number 2. Let's dive into idiom number 1. Idiom number 1 is a close shave, which means a situation in which something bad almost happens. For example, a speeding car nearly hit us while we were crossing the road today. It was a close shave. A close shave is when something bad almost happens, so you narrowly avoid danger. In this case, the person was walking across the road and a speeding car came along and almost hit them, so they narrowly avoided being hit by the car. In this case, we can say it was a close shave, or they had a close shave. So they narrowly avoided this dangerous situation. So that's idiom 1. Let's look at number 2 now. Idiom number 2 is call it a day, which means to stop working on a task or job. For example, it's almost midnight. Let's call it a day now and get back to work on this project on Monday. This idiom is commonly used in the workplace. We use it to say, look, we've worked hard, we've worked for a long time, now let's call it a day. Let's stop working. In this example, the person looked at his watch and saw that it was almost midnight. So he thought, okay, we've worked hard, now it's time to stop. Now it's time to call it a day. We will get back to work on Monday. We can also use this idiom to talk about someone's career. So imagine a footballer decides to retire from the sport. Perhaps he is getting many injuries or he's getting old. So he decides to stop playing football. He can use this idiom. He can say, I'm going to call it a day on my footballing career. I've had enough. I'm going to stop playing now. So we can use it for a specific task or someone's career. So that's idiom number 2. Here is idiom number 3 now. Idiom number 3 is get out of hand, which means to become difficult to control. For example, the children are really getting out of hand. They're screaming, shouting, and being rude to each other. In this example, the children are becoming difficult to control. They are getting out of hand. So we use this idiom when the situation is becoming a bit chaotic. We cannot control it and things are not going according to plan. So it's getting out of hand. So here the children were running around and screaming and shouting and being rude. They weren't playing nicely, so they weren't behaving themselves. Here we can say they're getting out of hand. Another example would be, imagine there's a large protest in the street. Many people are in the streets protesting against something. At first it's very peaceful, but eventually the police have to come because it starts getting out of hand. This means the people are starting to fight or cause violence. So in this case, they're becoming difficult to control. They're getting out of hand. So that's idiom number 3. Now, here is number 4. Idiom number 4 is under the weather, which means feeling a little sick or gloomy. For example, good morning, children. Mr. Johnson is a little under the weather, so Mrs. Smith will take your lessons today. So if you feel under the weather, it means you feel a little sick or gloomy. Gloomy simply means a bit sad or a bit depressed about something. So under the weather is not when you're seriously sick, it's just when you're a little sick, when you caught a cold, for example. So in this example, Mr. Johnson, the school teacher, was feeling under the weather, so he had to stay at home. Perhaps he caught a cold, and Mrs. Smith came along and took over his lessons for the day. So he was feeling a little bit sick. He was feeling under the weather. So those are the 4 idioms. Now it's time to move on to the training exercises and the other lectures in this section. Make sure you download the MP3 and PDF. Listen and read as much as you can. See you in the next lecture.